and I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension, everything, and the drama.
How dare! Look at this. How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
Well, hello and welcome to the Shifts and Pucks News Pack for Wednesday, January the 4th. I put January 3rd. It is actually January 4th. My days are all confused. We're still in all kind of confusing days. So January 4th, of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. And Happy New Year. I hope you've had a great holiday season here, and we're just getting ourselves into for our first news pack of the year here. Was going to do one yesterday, but I just found it very hard to kind of just think about talking about hockey just after the whole thing that happened on Monday. My eye was, of course, on the World Junior game and the spectacular showing that Connor Bedard had, and that goal that had Canada advance to the semifinals, which we'll talk about in a little bit, against the U.S. in the World Juniors. But I saw this tweet from a friend of mine who basically said this is so emotional, and that had me turn the channel to the Buffalo Bills Cincinnati Bengals game. I was going to watch after, and it was just a surreal scene watching and the whole situation with Damar Hamlin basically collapsing, having a cardiac arrest on the field, the subsequent situation and everything that happened after that. Still in intensive care right now. So still not we're seeing improvement. Sounds like from today, improvement according to what the Buffalo Bills tweeted out today. But as we'll just read what they tweeted out, and I know we are a hockey podcast, but this is about humans. And so Buffalo says from the Bills, Damar remains in the ICU in critical condition with signs of improvement noted yesterday and overnight. He is expected to remain under intensive care as his healthcare team continues to monitor and treat him. And it just was a very, I just was thinking, I never saw a situation and just feel so raw. And, we've had it in hockey. Chris Pronger tweeted about his collapse. Yuri Fisher, Jay Bouwmeester, Rich Peverly. There's been a few of those situations that come to mind I keep dropping my pen, in the National Hockey League. And, and as much as it's easy to criticize players, that are not playing very well or not doing their job, and all of these things, and why is this guy playing and why is this guy not playing? He's so lousy, he sucks, this and that. There is a human being behind that sports equipment, and there's a journey that becomes behind that sports equipment, whether that is football, whether that is hockey, whether that is baseball, whatever sport that you're passionate about. That it just had me just pause and reflect of how easy or how tough it is at times, or the challenge of just, the balance of something that is called to entertain us and balancing that with the human being behind it. And, we have bad days at our jobs. We have good days at our jobs. Nobody's going on our Twitter and posting on Twitter and saying that you should be fired. But we do that with players all the time. And, there's an inherent risk to what happens here. And we know that football and hockey and, any sport with body checking has a certain level of violence to it. And it was just tough for me to kind of unpack all of that myself. It shook me a little bit, so, and I'm just, my thoughts are with Damar Hamlin and his family. I don't know him, and it sounds like there's improvement, but there's a lot to go there. But it was a tough day sports wise, for sure. But there were 11 games yesterday. We've got a World Junior semifinal to talk about here, one going on as we speak, and of course Canada will play the U.S. a little bit later on. But yeah, it's been certainly been a different little week, but we'll step back here, talk a little hockey, talk about what happened yesterday with the Flames and the Canucks, and some things that happened around the league. The Jets beat the Flames last night 3-2. The Jets are missing a number of players, by the way, which includes Cole Perfetti, which includes Nate Schmidt, which includes Blake Wheeler, and they keep rolling right along. I know right now the leading candidate for the Jack Adams will be the winner of the Winter Classic, which was a fun event in itself, by the way, was Jim Montgomery. But I think you have to give some consideration to Rick Bowness and the job that he has done in a very interesting situation in Winnipeg. We came into this offseason with Winnipeg thinking that it was time for them to blow it all up. The captaincy was stripped from Blake Wheeler. You had the Pierre-Luc Dubois situation of, was he going to Montreal? Was he sticking around? What was going on there? Mark Scheifele and his comments in the offseason about whether he wanted to stay in Winnipeg. What was up with Connor Hellebuck? One of their key they didn't make any major moves other than the coach. They brought in Rick Bowness. And a guy that played his 1,002nd game in the National Hockey League, Sam Gagner, a guy that a lot of people thought was done with hockey. Guy that a lot of people were, when you say you acquire Sam Gagner, you kind of roll your eyes as this is a key acquisition. He got the game-winning goal last night. The Jets worked really hard. You've been hearing from Tyler Foley that they didn't like the pace of play that they started with. The Jets outworked them. And the Jets found a way to pull the win out, and the Flames were struggling. I mean, Brendan Dillon, Josh Morrissey scores, make it 2-1. Nikita Zadorov and Michael Backlund scored for the Flames, and then Gagner from a guy. Another interesting story in Ville Heinola, who's finding a way, it sounds like, to be a part of the Winnipeg Jets 6. This is a guy who drafted, he's a first-round pick, and he's a guy that a lot of people started to wonder a little bit about. He's in that question of like what's going on him. First round pick, first round defenseman. Flames familiar with that conversation with you, Valimaki. Canuck fans certainly in that familiar with that similar conversation with Olli Juolevi. This is the 20th pick overall in 2019, and it's only played 8 games, 1 point. You're not coming away thinking, man, Ville Heinola is the next up and coming superstar. But he is, making the steps to improve here. And that is all that you need to ask. And he's done his job. Dylan Sandberg, probably a little inconsistent, but still doing his job. Josh Morrissey taking that step. I think overall, as much as I am, there's enough criticism about the line deployment in Calgary and all of those sort of stuff. I really am becoming very impressed with what the Winnipeg Jets have done overall this year in the first half. They have to be sort of my pleasant story of the first half, the Winnipeg Jets. All that they've been through, good on them as they continue to work. And they've got, you've got Brad Lambert, who probably didn't have a great World Junior again, but Rucker McGroarty for the U.S., you're about to watch him play Canada. He's a star as well. You've got Cole Perfetti, of course, stepping into his own. Ville Heinola stepping into his own. The Jets have done some really good drafting the last few years and not they didn't tank, by the way. They will be a good team for a while. This looks like a team that is an up and coming team that has some potential here. So keep an eye out on that. So good win for the Jets last night. Flames will play Friday. That's their next game. And the Flames have been playing really well overall. I mean, I think over the Christmas holiday, you've started to see this team start to take a little bit of a turn to the right direction here. Huberdeau playing better. I mean, we all can talk about what happened against LA with the non-shot there. But I thought they played a really solid game for the most part against Vancouver on New Year's Eve. And I thought overall they are starting to get that game a little bit together. Rasmus Andersson, Noah Hanifin taking big steps, but you've got the Islanders coming up on Friday, and then your road trip, Chicago, St. Louis, twice is in St. Louis, and then Saturday against the Stars, and then Monday against the Predators. So they start a road trip against the Central Division, and some pretty significant Blues Predators kind of fighting in that playoff position here. So it's going to be an interesting week coming up for the Calgary Flames. Speaking of those New York Islanders, they came into Vancouver. And come away with a victory over the Canucks 6-2. Honestly, I have to tell you, the first period of the Canucks game last night was probably one of the best periods I've seen from this team overall. They jumped on the Islanders right away. 35 shot attempts, I think. Played really well. But again, what's been plaguing them all year has been giveaways and, unfortunately, average goaltending. And it's tough when you have the combination of these two. You're not going to win a lot of games. And, you look back at New Year's Eve and kind of the isolated, tough effort that JT Miller had defensively. But the Islanders, they took advantage of the opportunities that were given to them. Matthew Barzal comes home to Vancouver, Quitlam kid, and plays a really strong game. And he has 3 points. JP Pajot, or John Gabriel Pajot, 2 goals as well. They get a goal from their fourth line. Atu Rati gets a goal. Andre Lee gets a goal. Casey Kazikas gets a goal. And you're coming away with the 6-2 win with 2 goals from Bo Horvat, 27-28. I keep saying, I watch Bo Horvat, and I just don't. I think we had this conversation, and Sean thinks I'm Lloyd Christmas, but I find it really hard to believe that you're going to let a guy that has given so much to this organization and Bo Horvat end up walking away. And yeah, it's a good trade value, and it's, I think a lot of people are watching what Connor Bedard is doing in the World Juniors, and you're obviously tempted to just take a step back so you give yourself that opportunity to pick him. But gotta tell you, I love Bo Horvat. I do. I think someone is going to get a really strong player that's going to be a representative of that organization inside and out for a really long time. And I know, you want to rebuild and all of that, and I understand that. It's hard Bo Horvats are hard to find. And when you have them, I think you need to find a way to keep them around. Much like Michael Backlund in Calgary, and to a lesser extent, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in Edmonton. He's just been a guy that's given a lot to the organization. But, with signing JT Miller to the long-term extension, and Miller certainly hasn't so far lived up to what he has not been paid for yet, by the way. That contract kicks in next year. It's tough for sure. And this is, Elliot Friedman made the point today that the Canucks look shell-shocked, and I do agree with that. They just look like a team that needs something to happen. They needed something new, not new coaching, not not new management, but some new idea or something fresh coming to that collective 20-player dressing room that they don't have at this point. And until that happens, I think the Canucks will be spinning their wheels as the season goes on here. And you didn't get the Thatcher Demko, Bruce Boudreau mentioned, was skating, not with equipment, so he's still a ways away. Spencer Martin, I think, still is not quite there to be a regular NHL goalie. You're probably going to see a little bit more Colin Delia going forward. And yeah, it's just a tough time in Vancouver for sure. And it will continue to be until there's a direction plotted here. And it just, as we head into this, it feels like we're having the same conversation in Vancouver. We've had the same one for a number of years. Rebuild. Now you head into the final couple months here, heading into the trade deadline, and you're talking about selling assets again. You're talking about what you do with Bo Horvat, Luke Shen, Tyler Myers, Brock Besser, Connor Garland, all of these guys. And it's just the same conversation over and over again. Last year, same thing. What do you do with JT Miller? What do you do with Luke Shen? You end up trading Tyler Mott. And 7 points out playoffs, and it just doesn't feel like, in 2 games in hand, but it just feels like more the Canucks are slowly fading away. And it's the other unfortunate part about this is the continued outstanding year that Elias Pettersson has had. He's been phenomenal this year, and he's taken a huge step, and you've got some big questions about that coming into going forward here. But it's tough to watch what's going on in Vancouver, because it feels like the same thing is going on, which is just mushy middle. And I don't think it's doing anyone any benefit here. So we'll see what happens here. A couple of other games I wanted to talk about last night, and I wanted to spend some time on this. Seattle beat Edmonton last night 5-2. The Oilers were up 2-0. They got Leon Draisaitl back after he was injured, and the Kraken scored 5 straight goals. I think you have to look at impressive as Connor McDavid's scoring has been, and he's going to hit 140, possibly 150 points, and we're all going to talk about that. And you can spend a lot of time talking about Leon Draisaitl and the amount of time he's missed and his durability, and you could talk about all the 2 best goal players in the world conversation. I have to tell you, I think the Oilers have been one of the biggest disappointments of the season. 12 points behind Vegas for first in the Pacific. I think a lot of people had Edmonton and Calgary in top 2, and you could say that Calgary is a disappointment, and I can't necessarily disagree with you. But the Oilers have done the same sort of things that got them in trouble at the same time last year. They're not getting the goal. Their goaltending has generally been probably worse, I think, with Campbell and Skinner than Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith the year before. I think Skinner has played better. Campbell certainly struggled, but Skinner was pulled again last night. They've lost 5 in a row at home. They are 9-11-1 at home. They're playing really well on the road, 11-6-1. But you got Colorado. You're battling with Calgary in that wild card spot, and really Seattle as well, who's sitting in third. It's impressive, these individual numbers, and I'm not here to criticize McDavid and Draisaitl, because I don't, obviously I don't think that they're the issue, but the Oilers have not figured out the other parts of getting this team figured out here in terms of defense struggling, goaltending struggling, unfortunately, and they need to improve that. And I'm not, talked about at the beginning of this about really being about, careful how to criticize people here. They need more from defense and goaltending in general. So I'm just not one particular thing. And, I'm not saying anybody sucks, but the goaltending, it was better last year than this year. And, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins maybe having a good year, but depth scoring, I think SCP-RV, a lot of people were huge fans of him last year. He struggled this year. You've got the 4 guys that can score: Nugent-Hopkins, Hyman, McDavid, Draisaitl. You're not having a lot of scoring depth. You're not getting a lot from your defense, and your goaltending is. And you may not have been a big fan of their goaltending last year, and that's fine. But you could argue it's been better last year than this year. So the Oilers, allowed 132 goals. They've scored 138, which is more than anyone. The LA Kings, by the way, did you know the LA? No, that's not true. They've scored. Only Dallas has scored more goals than them in the Western Conference. But, you're sitting in a wild card spot. So, and fighting for life in that wild card spot. So Oilers, bit of a disappointment there. I just wanted to touch on that as the Kraken continue to impress. They've won 2 in a row here. Some other things that happened here as we continue on here. Jacob Vrana was placed on waivers yesterday. He cleared today. A lot of people wondered if he would be claimed, but I think his contract status is here with the Wings is probably a little preventative for someone to pick up. And it looks so he did clear. Here, looking at the Red Wings cap situation here in Jacob Vrana, Vrana's been through a lot. He's been through he's had his issues in terms of things that he's had to personally deal with here. But it's that second contract, that that second year in that contract, which he makes 4.125 here, UFA in 2025. It's tough to. I think a number of teams couldn't. Well, there's only 6 teams, according to Elliott Friedman, that could take a shot at him. So in terms of waivers, so you wonder if there's a trade option. I think there's certainly a lot of talent and a lot of hope with Jacob Vrana. I mean, he was a guy that when he was drafted, with a lot of people were wondering it was between him and David Pastrnak who would be the best check forward in that draft. And it's been Pastrnak, and it hasn't been close, but that gives you an idea of where we were with Jacob Vrana. Certainly a talented guy. 13th overall, 2014 NHL draft. 26 years old. Maybe he needs. He's been through a lot with injuries and personal issues here. So he hasn't played since October either. So see what happens. I hope cheer for Jacob Vrana. I see no reason why I should not cheer for Jacob Vrana. Jimmy Vesey, Rangers signed him. He's found a home in New York here after time in Toronto, time in Vancouver, time in a few different places getting his game together. But he's found that he signed a contract today with the New York Rangers, and so this year 12 points, 38 games here with the Rangers. He was the 66th overall pick for Nashville in the 2012 draft. And so, he's 29 years old. He, played 3 years. He started his career with the Rangers back in 17, 18, 19, then played with Buffalo, Toronto, Vancouver, Jersey, and then returned to the Rangers this year. So he sounds like he's found a home there on a 4th line role on the Rangers. So good for him. Good for Jimmy Vesey getting that contract. As for the games tonight, we've got six games, or 3 games, pardon me, tonight in the National Hockey League. We got New Jersey taking on the Detroit Red Wings. By the way, Jacob Vrana's Red Wings. Jersey has fallen well behind Carolina in the Metropolitan Division there. 49 points, 23, 11, and 3. And sitting in second place, Detroit, 16, 12, and 7. 7 points behind the New York Islanders for that wild card spot. In the Eastern Conference, you've got Tampa Bay taking on Minnesota. Tampa Bay, 24, 11, and 1, 49 points, taking on Minnesota, who, since they've acquired Ryan Reeves, have seemed to kind of played a little bit better as well. 21, 13, and 2 for 44 points. They're also in that wild card. Will be in that wild card battle, it looks like, in the Western Conference. And the other thing with Winnipeg, just to go back to them for a second here, those wins against Calgary and Edmonton, they were close to falling within that wild card battle as well, but they've put themselves in some secure. They've got some points in the bank now for Winnipeg, and especially with Colorado going to get healthier here, and it's in a very tough Central Division. Good on Winnipeg to get those points. So we've got that, and then we got Dallas taking on Anaheim. Dallas, we talked a little bit about earlier. 23, 10, and 6, 139 points. The Anaheim Ducks, who are sitting in second last, by the way, here, 10, 24, and 4. They've lost their last 2, and then second last in the wild card race in the Western Conference. We do have World Junior Semis to talk about, of course, as well, as Canada is taking on the U.S. That will start at 3:30 Pacific, so should be a very interesting game. I think a lot of people were thinking this would be the final, but this is the semifinal, and the winner will play the winner of the Sweden-Czech game, which is a 1-0 here late in the third. One there between Sweden and the Czech Republic, and so Sweden is hanging on there. And, a lot of talk about Connor Bedard. Obviously, just the tremendous performance he put on Monday, and the tremendous performance, record-breaking performance he's put on. But I wanted to mention something here that nobody's really talking about. This is something, Logan Stankoven and Joshua Waugh, that line has played really well. Stankoven had a number of opportunities as well. Dennis Williams didn't take him off the ice. That line was pretty much on the whole time, and I thought they did some yeoman's work, especially Stankoven. He made a lot of plays as well. So I think he does deserve, Stankoven deserves some credit as well. No question, Bedard has been the show in the World Juniors for Canada. But this team, is going to have a very tough on their hands with U.S. with the offense that they have as well. Jimmy Snuggerud, Logan Cooley, lots of stars in U.S. So that'll be a fun game to watch later. And then the finals go on later this week. And AHL, we'll just touch on the AHL and WHL schedules here. And the AHL, we've got the Wranglers. I believe we look at the schedule here. As that comes up, and then we got the WHL as well. For the AHL, we've got it's another Abbotsford Calgary Wrangler game. Abbotsford beat the Wranglers on Monday. Yes, they beat them on Monday. It was 5-2, so those two teams will be at it again. And we've also got Ontario taking on Bakersfield, Colorado taking on Coachella Valley tonight, Cleveland taking on Grand Rapids, Providence taking on Bridgeport, Manitoba taking on Laval, and Belleville taking on Rochester, and Wilkes-Barre will host The Wilkes-Barre will host tonight as well. They're playing a game tonight at home, obviously, against the Charlotte Checkers. WHL action tonight. We've got 4 games. We've got the Pats taking on the Brandon Wheat Kings. The Hitmen are in Prince Albert. You've got the Hurricanes hosting the Moose Jaw Warriors, and the Everett Silvertips taking on the Kamloops Blazers. We'll spend a little bit of time next couple of days spending more time on that, but lots of other things to cover, but we'll leave it there. Of course, you can follow us all individually on Twitter, Sean Beardy Canuck03, Tyler TNOBLE, Christian Schneid's SCHNEIDZ, Devin Gordhow09. I am KEVOLE, Shifts and Pucks, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.